How are you?
Mm, I'm all right. I'm all right. Yeah. How am I? That's a great question. Yeah, I'm good actually. I am very good. I think did we chat a couple of weeks ago, and I just come back from Greenbelt or something like that. Is that
I
right?
think so, yeah, because you're telling me about what's his face?
Brian McLaren.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm still reading his book. Still very very good. I haven't
Mm.
finished it.
Which
Um,
book?
it's called "Do I Stay Christian?"
Ah,
Or "Do I Stay a Christian?" And it's a lot of like the negative aspects of Christianity and why you might not,
yeah,
because because of patriarchy, because of the sordid history of Christianity, because of the way it treats the Jewish people, because of the way it treats women or gay people, like so many just different
mm.
reasons not to stay. And then it goes on to talk about like the other the reasons why you could
Right,
or should stay.
yeah,
And then then how do you stay? And I
mm.
haven't got that far. I'm still reading the note,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I'm like, yeah, feel vindicated. I'm leaving.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah,
well, I was expecting there to be an alternative, but part of it was like just saying all no, all reasons why not, and I thought, is that the book? Like,
no, that's
should I
just
say a
the
Christian? No.
no,
Reason
no.
number one, no.
It's one page. It just says no on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a real straightforward, but very, very easy reads. 10 out of 10. No, he goes through sort of like I can't
Yeah.
remember, like 9 different reasons to leave, 9 different reasons to stay, and then like if you do choose to stay, how do you stay in a good way?
Yeah.
Like,
I guess that's mm, an important question at the end.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. How? And it's fascinating. Like um, he talks about no longer living in a world that he grew up in, which is the world of like evangelical Christianity,
yeah,
where
yeah,
things are super black and white, where
yeah.
it's like really clear cut. And you've read his other book where he talks about like those
Faith
four,
after doubt. Yeah,
yeah, faith after that, where he's got like the simplicity, complexity,
yeah,
perplexity, harmony.
yeah.
Um,
It's a good book.
yeah, well, I've kind of got the essence of it from reading this
Mm.
one, and I'm like, oh yeah,
Mm.
that sounds like it would be a good read.
Yeah,
And yeah, so sort of kind of getting those, I guess, the essence of that, and then and seeing where he's landing with all of this,
yeah,
and he's very, it's really interesting because I was reading it, um, and I had it with me at work. And one of my colleagues asked me, what are you reading? She's like a staunch atheist.
mm.
And I was telling her about it, and she's like, "Oh, that sounds like it'd be really interesting." And I was like, "It is," and like sort of talking about how he straight from off the bat acknowledges that he's white, middle class, in his 50s, was a pastor. He's got a very specific lens, and he knows
Yeah,
he recognizes the like that weight that his voice will carry,
yeah, yeah.
the impact that has, and the way it can colour the conversation straight away.
Mm.
Um, he's just quite a thoughtful guy, I think.
Yeah,
I
I
like that.
got that impression.
Yeah,
And it's good. I find it helpful just hearing, like you said, hearing where other people have landed with
yeah,
it. And almost that's a good way of testing different possibilities um or kind of working out would that fit for me.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah.
yeah. Good, interesting, very
Mm.
interesting. But yeah, I mean, I'm still like, that's funny. My dad asked me today. He's like, "Oh, so you don't go to church anymore, do you, James?" And I was like, "No, not really." I was like, "Oh, it's a real shame." And I was like, "Well,
Mm.
actually, I'm quite happy about that."
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
there's certainly like I'm not. I don't know. It's really hard to sort of say what I what I've gained or what I don't no longer have. Like no longer have holding me back. I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
or there's like an element of expectation that's just not there anymore.
Yeah.
Which is really great. It's really, really.
And is that
Yeah.
like freeing?
Yeah,
In a, and I guess I'm just bringing my own stuff here, but kind of without that expectation, I feel a bit more free to I think what I really want to say is free for faith or spirituality or whatever you want to call it, or like to have its way with me, or to have its own impact on me.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Like, like letting faith grow in you and or grow in the way that it's supposed to or it can do, and it's much more outward and like like sort of spreading as opposed to narrow and focused and
yeah. Like, I guess I think a lot about like let's say kind of social justice stuff.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, should I buy fair trade? Should I have green energy suppliers? Like all those things. And I think before, and there still is, because I take a lot with me, but there's this sense of guilt or like expectations that I should be doing something, or I'm um um I'm da, 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 like God would be displeased if I was not doing something or something like that.
Yeah, if you're not exercising your faith in some respects.
Yeah. No, that's a good way of putting it. And now it's kind of like open to the possibility of that emerging out of a care for humanity or a care for the planet. Like it's a different way, but it feels a bit more like that could be better. Like that could be more authentic, I guess.
Yeah. Where you're led a bit more by sort of like genuinely what is deep in your heart about things, as opposed to just what like maybe the church is saying, well, we're going to focus on this, or actually God really seems to be hot on this. Whereas actually when you read the Bible, it's like seems like there's lots of stuff that God really cares about.
Yeah.
So and I think I've never really for myself never really been able to get over the control element, the control aspect. And that's like it's something we've talked about a little bit before, and power, and how the person even now, like, you know, I meet every now and then. I'm seeing him tomorrow actually, Nick, who's the new pastor of the church I used to go to. There's like a kind of almost like a blind spot or an obliviousness to how much weight he has and how much sway and how much say he's got. So he's like really excited about the church. He's really excited about it becoming more inclusive and hopefully becoming like part of diverse church. It's not there yet, but it's heading in that direction, which is fantastic. I mean, it's all to the good. A lot of this is really, really good stuff. That's very much like where he's at and his agenda. And he said some really, really good stuff as well, which I'll come on to. But he was talking about, you know, going to a church meeting, and he brought this stuff to the church meeting, and he was saying, you know, this is just the idea that I've sort of been thinking and sort of like mulling over. What do you guys think? We can bring it again to the next church meeting after you've had time to sort of like chat and think and pray about it. And somebody there said, oh, well, why can't we adopt those principles now? They're like sort of not quite a credo, but along those lines, you know, like 6 sort of precepts that they're going for, which are they're great. They're really lovely, but there was like an unawareness from him that as the pastor, he has a lot more clout to get that type of thing through.
Yeah.
So he could have suggested something slightly different, or something like, or if somebody else had suggested those, depending on like his personality, he could have crushed that or squashed it. It just, do you know what I mean? Like if you've got, it's not just about having a loud voice; it's about having the platform as well. I don't know, and it makes me uncomfortable because it kind of, like, you see it everywhere, like in society and whatnot, and I'm just like, I'm just not comfortable with it. Just not comfortable with it. And coupled with that, I mean, he said some really good stuff about that he that really challenged me. This is sort of like vaguely connected, but vaguely unconnected. So I'm, as usual, dancing around all over the place with this. So he was talking about like taking people with him. So if it's an inclusive church, where he's aiming for an inclusive church, that's inclusive of all opinions and all voices. So you're welcome to believe that that gay marriage is wrong, but you're not welcome to not love the people who are gay and are married. And I was like, oh, I find that really, really difficult. Yeah. So it did challenge me as well, but in a good, and I think in a good way. I still don't really know what I think about that.
Like, is it possible to love and love someone in a gay marriage and think being in a gay marriage is wrong,
and not have like homophobic undertones or overtones to what you do and say and act? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, without that coming through with because I think like my I can only go with my experience working with people who struggle with drugs and alcohol. There is like this kind of barrier that you can encounter with people where they're like, oh, but it's probably their fault. So, you know, and so we'll love you to a point, but ultimately it's your fault. So there's kind of like that wall that you kind of get really, really close to bridging, but you have to, like, the person who's on the other side of it has to go, oh, actually, no, this person is exactly like me. I am this person, just I've had different things have happened to me, so I've ended up there. I've got other addictions. I've got other things that are holding back or whatever.
And that's what happens in real relationships, isn't it? Like, I feel like you get to those points where you gradually approach a line of, are you going to treat me as somebody who's
other,
the same or other? And it's very like, and if you approach it as you're the same, can you then still hold your belief that it's wrong?
It's that they're wrong.
Like that's really challenging, I think.
It's really challenging, and it's also, and I get that. So I think, you know, in my better moments, I suppose I see it as being, it takes time and it takes like love for people to change, and for people to like I'm being really subversive here, but like to people to convert people from being homophobic to not homophobic. I'm just sort of thinking of that as like that is quite frequently the other way round. It all has been in churches with conversion therapy and all that sort of stuff. Which still isn't fully abolished. Anyway, that another talk for another time. So this whole sort of and struggle within me of like, okay, yeah, it takes a while for this person to get from this place to this place. And I've seen people do it. I've seen like the transition, people moving from not accepting to loving. And like even from hating to accepting and not accepting, loving. Yeah, maybe that's my argument. Maybe that's just, I think I've just shot my argument in the face.
I guess you're moving the. Well, I guess maybe what he's trying to do is move the condition for being part of this church away from a belief to, can you love everybody in this church?
Yeah, and he's moved it even further away from that, because he talks about closed and bounded and open sets.
Yeah,
and he's like, I don't want the church to be a bounded set. It's not a case of whether you're in or out. It's just about how close you are.
Yeah.
The other people who are there, they're part of the church. The other people who aren't there, they're still part of the church. They're just not there yet, or they're not as close yet. So that kind of more open-handed approach, or like borderless approach, which I suppose does come down to that whole seeing things as barriers or not barriers, or lines and or not lines, you know. Yeah, it does get me thinking a little bit. Still not ready to go back just yet.
Yeah, and I guess I'm also aware, James, I can only do half until 8:30, or just after. So
that's
but we should maybe book in when we can do it next time. And, hopefully get something a bit more regular. But I'm kind of reminded of this idea of, I think somebody called it radical acceptance. But they related it to themselves, like to parts work in yourself. And can you accept those parts in you that are like to other, and can you accept what am I thinking, like I guess I'm thinking about the possibility of having so many mixed beliefs. Like, could you have a gay couple and someone who believes that practicing or gay marriages is wrong? Can they coexist and accept each other as they are and what they bring? And how does that relate to the different parts of us that seem quite contradictory, and that they can all be accepted and find a place? Like I feel like I think a lot is said about being, when we hate a part, it's because it's a projected part of us.
What offends us reveals us.
Yeah. So I'm intrigued by the possibility. And part of me is skeptical.
Yes, I mean, the half of me is just screaming, absolutely never going to happen. Another part's like, what if it could?
I know. That's it.
It could.
Yeah.
Maybe that's actually it. Maybe that's the answer.
Yeah.
And like the whole, when we first started meeting, I think one of the first things we talked about was acceptance.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, hang on. Maybe.
Yeah.
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 Oh, that's been really good. That's
Yeah.
given me a lot of food for thought, Tom. Lots of food for thought. I love that.
No, it reminds me a bit of I was reading a diary of Merton, Thomas
Okay.
Merton.
Yes,
You can buy his diaries. Well, they've been published, I guess.
Yeah.
Probably curated in some way as well.
He is like an old, isn't he?
He's like I mean,
not 90.
like he's died. He's definitely died.
Yeah.
And 1950s maybe Cold War sort of era.
Oh, okay. So he's like last century, not
last century, early last century, let's say. Yeah. And I think talked a lot about the American invasion of Vietnam, yeah. And the craziness of it.
Maybe 70s then, or 60s. Okay.
Yeah. And that, I mean, this was he was talking a lot about that in this diary, and this seemed like it was towards the end of his life.
Right. Yeah. So
yeah.
60s sometimes.
Yeah. He was talking about, or it just kind of came across as like he knew the Catholic system was pretty dire, or was, probably had all these things that Brian McLaren is talking about, and it like he saw through it. And then he was like, but this is the right place for me to be, and God's maybe working in it, or maybe something's happening. And I think I was really challenged by that, of like, can I accept how it is, how things are,
the broken system,
and see through it, like not ignore the broken system, but
God works in spite of it.
yeah. I guess it felt along the same sort of lines of acceptance. But it's quite a like the normal thing to do is to fight.
Yes.
Like try to persuade, or try to convert, or try to.
Yeah, but there is a combative nature to evangelism, isn't there?
Yeah. And even like what am I saying? Like we can think of church hierarchies as combative, and we can think of trying to fight against them, as like we can think that the answer to that is to fight against them, but that's still playing the same sort of system.
You're still fighting.
You're still fighting. And you're still othering as well, I guess.
Well, yes, because the reason you fight is because like that they're wrong and you're right. You suddenly created a bounded system in it.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh my god.
So maybe like acceptance being more truly a subversive way of being.
Yeah.
If it's possible, as much as it's possible.
Oh, that's very good. That's very good. That is lofty ideas and beautifully distilled. Yeah.